Back in 2022, Fresno County gave the hospital system more than $2.5 million for 6 beds and a CT scanner for help during the COVID pandemic. At the time, federal prosecutors say the hospital was in the midst of its kickback scheme, allegedly giving doctors whiskey, cigars, trips to strip clubs, and on private planes in exchange for the usage of its health record systems and for sending referrals to the hospital. So on this Wired Wednesday, GV Wire reporter Edward Smith joins us live from the GV Wire studios in Fresno to break down all the allegations. Good morning, Edward, and thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Hey, good morning, Carl.
So let's start breaking it down. Why did Fresno County give community regional money back in 2022?
Yeah, so if you remember that time, hospitals were still struggling. It wasn't at the worst part of the pandemic, but they were still struggling with a lot of patients. They were still dealing with a lot of that. So, Fresno County had all that ARPA money, that American Rescue Plan money, and they decided, hey, we're going to give community some money for some beds and some new equipment because, they needed to help with the COVID. So they decided to give them that money. And, this is at a time that hospitals were saying, oh, we're really strapped for cash. And because COVID shut down all those all those inpatient surgical teams, and, they were still struggling for money.
So with it being a few years now, what brought this up now?
Yeah, so this came back up. This came back up actually at the Tuesday board meeting, and they had to do a change order. They had to do some things, so this came back up. So we saw that during this time, to 2022, they had to do that again. So that's kind of what brought it up again, was they had to review the money, and so it's back up now. Yeah.
And what does the whistleblower say Community Regional did with that?
Yeah, so while they were struggling with COVID money, they were still giving out these whiskey, cigars, and fancy trips, and spending $60,000 on trips to foreign places for their CEO. This was a lot of, and they had a headquarters, a big headquarters that they spent a lot of money on, to kind of wine and dine these docs in order to get these referrals and to get them to sign on to using their electronic health record system. So and this was all going on in the middle of COVID. So it raises a lot of questions.
With that being said, did these allegations get resolved, and if they did, how?
Yeah, so the hospital ended up paying about $31.5 million in the settlement, and part of those, the federal government laid out a lot of what they claimed that the hospital did, and so the hospital kind of agreed to a lot of those terms, some of the terms that we discussed, and so yeah, they ended up paying about $31.5 million to settle those.
Edward Smith, a lot of information with those allegations. Thank you so much for joining us from GV Wire from your studio on this Wired Wednesday.
Thank you.
Great day. We'll be right back.